Welcome. So I gave a talk just a couple nights ago, actually, on samadhi. How many folks in the room are familiar with the concept of samadhi? Okay. So let's back up a little. In the insight tradition, which is sort of a Western derivative of the Theravadan tradition of Buddhism, there's a heavy emphasis on the sort of early teachings as recorded in the Pali Canon. And those focus primarily on the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is like the cookbook. It's like how to cook a peaceful mind. It's got 8 elements. And the last of those 8 elements on how to cook a peaceful mind is samadhi. Often translated as concentration, right? Or single-pointedness of mind or absorption. I actually like to think of samadhi as a gathering of the attention. It's a mind that is not scattered, a mind that is not quickly drawn out, right? And it's the last of the Buddha's factors in the Eightfold Path. And it's the thing actually that in the West we often think of when we think of the Dharma, when we think of this practice, right? There's that kind of image that most of us can call to mind of somebody sitting in the lotus position looking very still and undisturbed. And that quality of stillness, that quality of gathered attention, that's samadhi. The path factor right before it, number 7, is mindfulness, sati. And I thought it'd be helpful, actually, having taught samadhi a few nights ago, to shift to samadhi or to sati tonight, because often the two are confused. Often somebody will say, slow down, be mindful, right? Or I need to collect my attention and focus on my breath and practice my mindfulness. But actually, you already practiced your mindfulness when you realized that the mind needed some attention and needed some tending to. Mindfulness is an awareness of whatever is happening in the body and the mind right now. You can be mindful of an angry mind. You can be mindful of a busy mind. You can be mindful of a scattered mind, a dull mind, or an excited mind. Mindfulness is knowing. It is that quality of awareness of experience, the human experience that is happening right now. It doesn't require slowness. It doesn't necessarily mean you're cool, calm, and collected. In fact, it's most important probably when you're not. Because then it can kick in and suggest maybe you cultivate a little bit of samadhi. Cool things down some. One easy way to remember the sort of simple nature of mindfulness is the children's song, If You're Happy and You Know It, right? The kid who's sitting in the circle, who is both happy and knows it, is mindful. The one who's singing along but actually has no idea how he feels is not mindful. The one who's sitting in the circle looking grumpy and is very aware that she feels grumpy and that her face is all scrunched, she is also being mindful, right? It's just knowing the state of one's mind or body. It's not vegetables or sound baths or sitting meditation any more than it's bubble gum or traffic jams or teeth whitening, right? It doesn't have a sort of cultural overlay. It's just awareness. If you go to the text, there's one sutta that sort of has a central place in the canon called the Satipatthana Sutta. There's a short version and a long version. It's a very detailed sutta on all of the different things that you can be mindful of. And it's fairly lengthy. And I might just summarize that sutta as the Buddha saying, be aware of the entirety of the human experience. everything about the body, that the body's filled with organs, that the body's filled with blood, that the body has heat in it, that the body has water in it, right? That the mind can be hot, that the mind can be cold, that the mind can be still, that the mind can be busy. Know all of these aspects of the human experience. You can be aware of any of them and all of them. And they all can be included in this concept of mindfulness. It's just knowing. It's like this right now. The body is sitting like this right now. It feels like this right now. The nature of the mind is like this right now. I sat a long retreat, actually on a few occasions, with this wonderful teacher. Her name's Carol Wilson, and she's from Brooklyn, and she has that nice Brooklyn lilt. And she would just pepper the meditation with that. It's like this right now, just all the time. And it's great. And I still hear her voice in my head on a regular basis. This is the quality of mindfulness. Oh, the leg hurts. It's like this right now. Right? Oh, inner critic screaming in my ear. Oh, it's like this right now. Right? This is the nature of this quality. There are two exceptions. There are two times when mindfulness cannot meet reality. One is when we are experiencing extreme pain. And the other is when we are experiencing extreme pleasure. And am I talking loud enough? Everybody? Good. Okay. Sure. The Buddha noted that when we experience extreme pleasure, the mind becomes intoxicated. It's unable to continue that steady process of, it's like this right now. It gets lost in the pleasure. And when it experiences extreme pain, it gets shut down, right? And we've all probably experienced those parts of the spectrum. And a very practical way to think about the Buddha's middle path, right, is sort of stay in the range of experience where you can sustain mindfulness, right? Don't veer off into either of those domains, because that's where mindfulness shuts down. There's a point when I'm visiting the dentist where I cannot sustain mindfulness. It blinks out. It just hurts too much. And for a little second, I kind of check out. Yeah. Or for those of us who have experienced prolonged periods of physical or mental illness, very hard to sustain mindfulness. We find ourselves sort of getting lost, fantasy, daydreaming, trying any way to sort of shut down and numb out. And if you've had that experience, don't feel bad. The Buddha noted 2,600 years ago that it's just a very hard thing to do. It is hard to keep the mind present for periods of extreme pain. It's extraordinarily difficult, if not impossible. And actually, it's a blessing of the human psyche that it numbs us out like that. That's a nice thing. It's a gift from our mind to itself to not leave you writhing in agony, right? But as far as cultivating a peaceful mind on the path that the Buddha laid out, to the extent you can, avoid the extreme pain and the extreme pleasure. I did a retreat a couple weekends ago. Somebody said, I'm in so much agony I can't practice. What should I do? And I said, take some Tylenol. And they did, and it was better, right? So you got to move things back into that main channel. So why did the Buddha put it there? Why is it number 7 on the Eightfold Path? Why isn't it number 1? Right? It seems like when you want to start with being aware. And why does it matter so much? Why is it kind of the central element that we focus on in the West? And in some of the Buddha's teachings, it's considered kind of the coordinating element of deep meditation practice. But actually, the reason that it's 7 is because deep meditation practice is the very last part of the Eightfold Path. The first 5 factors are actually just concerned with how you're living. Right? The first one is right view. And when you start with right view, it's really just knowing that the things you do matter. If you go around causing harm, you're going to create sort of unpleasant mental qualities in your mind, and you're going to create an unpleasant environment that starts to reverberate those unpleasant qualities, and you're going to make life pretty miserable for yourself and everyone around you. And if you act in ways that are conducive to harmony, you're going to do the opposite. The mind's going to feel good, and what you're going to get back is good. This is karma, right? Simply put, without the cosmological overlay. What you put out reverberates back. And that's where the Eightfold Path starts. And then once you understand that, you get to right speech, speaking in a way, right intention. You say, I'm going to go out into the world, and I'm going to carry this knowledge, and then I'm going to talk in a certain way, and I'm going to act in a certain way, and I'm going to have a certain type of job that all create this positive reverberation. So that's the first part of the Eightfold Path. And when you think about the middle way, it makes sense. The Buddha said, how are you going to cultivate mindfulness if you're living in a little internal hell that you've made for yourself? First, you got to clean things up. Right? Just start living in a way that is not so extraordinarily painful or hedonistic that you can actually start to practice. Right? And probably most of you, because of the fact that you could sit here for 30 minutes without running, screaming out the door, it means you've done that to a certain extent already in your lives. You've settled things in. And then there's this turning point at number 6 in the Eightfold Path. It's right effort. It says, okay, once you clean things up, now it's really time to start cultivating these inward qualities. Right? Now, with this extra energy that you have, because you're not putting out all these fires in your life, what are you going to do with that? And the first thing to do with that is to cultivate sati, this awareness, this mindfulness. And for us as lay people, who may not always then turn the corner to sort of deep concentration practices, it has a number of useful effects in and of itself. The first one is learning. Right? The more we notice what's going on, the more we understand how this mind works, and the more we can make wise decisions about how to work with it, about how we want to live our life. Some things I've learned by noticing my mind. When I haven't slept, I'm more grumpy. When I don't drink alcohol, I think more clearly. When I'm jealous of people, I tease them. The second critical function of mindfulness, and this one's a little subtler, is that it creates a relational dynamic between the part of our mind that is aware and the thoughts, moods, and desires in the mind. It is the mind relating to the mind. It creates two. Right? It creates the witness and the experience. And that relational dynamic is the basis of emotional regulation, it's the basis of insight, and it ultimately becomes the catalyst for deep levels of samadhi. Let me put this in practical terms. If I come in here all full of rage because somebody banged me in the parking lot here, right, and didn't apologize, and I'm yelling and I'm raging, right, with no mindfulness, you just see it. The anger has taken me over. But as soon as that sati kicks in, and I shift from F this, that, I'm F for that, right, and all that, and I say, oh, there's anger here. Now there's a relationship between the one who's noticing the anger and the anger. And that capacity starts changing everything. There's now an ability to work with it, to make decisions about what to do with it. Even, there's great research showing that even in the act of naming it, it starts to regulate. So sati has this essential function of what the therapist Dick Schwartz calls unblending, what other therapeutic modalities call bringing awareness to, and what this practice calls bringing mindfulness to. Right? You create that relationship between the witness and the experience. And for those of you who do want to cultivate samadhi, one of the ways to the deepest levels of concentration is to start to bring that relational experience to layers and layers of increasingly subtle desire. As you sit, you might notice there's a slight tension wanting this pain in the rear end literally to go away. And when you name it, oh, wanting pain in the rear end to go away. And you get that relational distance from it, the body settles a little more. And then maybe you notice building in the background a little tension, and you get curious about it. You say, oh, wanting the sound of the watch to stop. You name it, the body gets even more still. Right? Oh, wanting something interesting to happen, the body gets even more still. And so mindfulness and concentration then start working together and noticing increasingly subtle layers of fears and desires in the psyche, and things can get very quiet and very still. And then as we learn the depths of the mind and we move back out into the world, we're able to act with even more discernment to create that better karmic resonance and live lives that are very peaceful. And the last thing I'll say on the topic is that even if you aren't right at that point of, pristine ethical behavior, right? If you still put your foot in your mouth sometimes, I'll volunteer myself as the example of that. Both mindfulness and samadhi exist on a spectrum. A little bit is better than none. A little more is better than a little bit. So I'd really encourage everyone to make a commitment, right? To have some little reminder, some little something. Whether it's like this right now, or it's like this. Or for some people, it's just feeling sensation in the heart space. And this can be a really useful space because right here in the middle of the chest, you can get a very quick read on most of your emotions. And the ones that you can't feel here, you can usually feel down here. And so just checking in with the belly and the chest can open up a huge window into the world of the mind. Even simpler than that, noticing what your feet are doing. It's a little bit of mindfulness. Are my feet moving? Are they still? Are the legs crossed? Right? But any little anchor point that you can have to just build that awareness of what the mind and the body are doing through the day will help cultivate this quality. Yeah? And in this way, we can take this practice that in some ways was designed for monastics and make it very valuable as lay people living out in a busy and chaotic world. And I'll stop there.